All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this Education Transformation 2020 presentation, Stress Less, Addressing Burnout, all while handling the paper load in an online setting. My name is Kayla Elkin, and I'm on the marketing team here at Hawks Learning. Our speaker today is Professor Nicole Wilson of Bowie State University. Professor Nicole Wilson has been teaching technical writing and English composition courses at Bowie State University since 2000. In addition to her teaching responsibilities, she has assessed and reviewed technical writing and composition textbooks and online interactive composition and learning programs. Outside of her profession, she has also served as a supervisor for creating an interactive whiteboard reading curriculum for elementary and middle schools, written grants and proposals to promote health and wellness, and she is the co-author of a book titled A Mom's Timeout. We are so excited that Professor Wilson is here to share her experience and insight with us today. We do have a large audience and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible. Kristen Gantz of Hawks, a member of our training and support team, is also joining us in the background of the webinar today. She is here to help answer questions throughout the webinar, so please enter those into the Q&A as we go, and she will write back to you. And of course, if you have any questions for Professor Wilson, we will save those for the end of the presentation and read them aloud in the live Q&A session. On that note, I will hand it over to our presenter. The floor is yours, Professor Wilson.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. And thank you for being here. As she mentioned earlier, my name is Nicole Wilson, and I've been teaching English and composition for over 20 years, and I've been teaching online for over 15 years. The title of my presentation, as she mentioned, is Stress Less, Addressing Burnout, all while handling the paper load in an online setting. I decided to talk a little bit about this or write about this because in March, my sister sent me an email or a text message telling me how lucky I was to be able to teach from home. And I explained to her that it was going to be a little more stressful. I was already teaching 2 online classes, and now I would have to teach 5 online classes. What I didn't realize when I said that to her was that I was going to be more overwhelmed than I thought. So my goal was to find some ways to stress less. I started waking up early, sitting at my computer all day, only to grab a snack, only to go to bed late at night. And what I wanted to do was reclaim my time. I wanted to find a way where I could balance both teaching online and doing the things that I enjoy. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is burnout, and I'm taking this information from Katie Maycock, who's an anxiety specialist for corporate executives, and she writes that there are 6 stages of burnout: excitement, let's work harder, frustration, illness and denial, lack of drive and apathy, and then burnout has me now. And I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I kind of felt that way. At first, I was really excited about, being able to teach online and be safe. Of course, I wanted to work harder. So I worked as hard as I could. And surely by the end of the semester, or until it really wasn't the end of the semester, until I decided to reclaim my time, I started plummeting. And so let's talk about some strategies that we can use to make sure that we don't get to number 6. I'll begin by talking a little bit about stress. The Time magazine has a wonderful edition titled Stress. And one of the things in that edition was stated how they defined stress, and then they talked a little bit about it. So they said stress is a constant state of high alert, and it can contribute to serious health problems. However, there's no real fix for stress, but there are ways to master stress, and in doing so, to make sure it never masters us. And that's my goal. I hope today that we'll be able, as instructors and professionals, to master stress so that it doesn't master us. So why are teachers so stressed? One author says that teachers worry for all sorts of reasons. So that's why we're tired all the time. We make a ton of decisions. We cycle between high intensity emotions and we worry too much. So let's do the first thing. Let's take a breath. One of the things that I learned as I was trying to move toward peace was that breathing helps a lot. So I downloaded an app called Breathworks, and what it does is it teaches you how to breathe by breathing in, letting your stomach expand, holding it for a few seconds. I'm hoping you're doing this with me. And then breathing out. And that really helped me. So that was one of the things that when I found myself being overwhelmed or stressed, that's what I did. Some of the other things that help to reduce stress are sunshine. Get some sunshine if you can. Take a few seconds, a few minutes in between classes and go just look at the sun if you can. Exercise, we know, reduces stress. Positive thinking, and doing activities that bring us joy. So the goal or the aim is when we're teaching online is to find balance. So what we're going to talk about today are 10 strategies for achieving balance in an online classroom. So I'm going to run through the list right now, but I'll go through those each one of those strategies throughout this presentation. So we want to organize, prepare, eliminate distractions, be consistent, be present, use rubrics, manage the paper load, manage adverse situations, play hard, and accept stress. So we're going to begin with organization. Organize your workspace. What you want to do is create a happy place. James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, chapter 6 is labeled "Motivation is overrated. Environment matters more." He goes on to say one of the most effective ways to reduce friction associated with your habits is to practice environment design. So my office is in a sunroom. Now that's problematic sometimes when it gets too cold, but I want it to be in a place where I could have a lot of sunlight. I put in here, this is my happy place. I organized my books in a way that brings me joy. One of the authors that I love, Gretchen Rubin, in her Happiness Project, talks about placing your books in a place that brings you the most joy. So I enjoy technical writing. So my technical writing books are in one place. As soon as I walk in my office, I can see them. And then right next to them, I enjoy children's stories. So all of the children's books that I love, they're in another place. And then I have all of my other books in other places. So create a happy place for you. Make your office space a place that you enjoy. Then you want to put all your tools and resources in a place where you have easy access. I once was at my cousin's house and she talked about her functioning kitchen, where she would actually have her baking ware all together in one place so that when she was ready to bake, she didn't have to look for it. And then she had her spices right next to her stove so that she could easily grab the spices when she needed to. So I recommend that you create a functioning office space where you place all the tools that you need. So the books that I use on a consistent basis during the semester are placed right next to me on my desk. My printer is placed very close to me so I don't have to run around looking for printer paper or any of those other things. The pens and pencils that I use, they're placed in the same place so that I have easy access. And That's another way to eliminate stress. And then finally, find a quick and easy creature comfort. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes we can get under stress when we're actually teaching online or doing certain things. So for some people, it might be having something like having tea. When I learned that peppermint was a good way to reduce stress and anxiety, and it helps to boost you up, I decided to get some peppermints and have them right by my desk so that if I need to pop one in so that I can feel relaxed, that I'll do so. So find a quick and easy creature comfort. Prepare. Now, we know as teachers and professionals that we have to prepare, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that I have done. One of the things that I highly recommend is that you plan your personal schedule. I know we all have a teaching schedule that we have to do, but what about you? What time are you carving out to do your own personal research? What time are you carving out to do the things that bring you joy? What time are you carving out to exercise? So what I do at the beginning of the semester is I plan my personal schedule. When am I going to take time for my own academic pursuits? When am I going to take time to exercise? When am I going to take time to do some of the things that I want to do? This is very important. Make sure, and it's very difficult, make sure that you create a begin and stop time. And I know that can be hard sometimes. That happened to me yesterday. I was trying to take my own advice. I had a stop time, but I was almost finished, so I didn't want to stop. I went through. But you want to make sure that you create a begin time and stop time, or else you may be working forever. Aim to unite with your own circadian rhythm. I was speaking with a colleague who said that she told her students that they should study around their own circadian rhythm. So if they're morning people, they should go ahead and study in the morning if they can. Or if they're individuals who like to who stay up late, they should study at night. If you know your own circadian rhythm, it makes it better in terms of the time that you're focusing on work that you need to focus on. Plan your syllabus from day one until the last day of the semester. Now, I know that can be very time consuming in the beginning, but it really helps as you're going throughout the semester. I don't like for students to say to me, hey, Professor Wilson, what are we going to do today? I want them to know what we're going to do on that particular day. So I have a general outline of everything that we're going to do from day one until the very end. And it also helps me. That way I don't have to think about what are we going to do today. I know exactly what we're going to do from the first day until the last day. And then the other thing that I do in addition to planning my syllabus from the first day until the last is that I actually create a mini daily lesson plan. At our institution, as a professor, I am not required to create a lesson plan in the way that I had to when I taught high school, but I still have a lesson plan ready so that I know what I need to do for the class. And then one of the most important things that I do that helps me so much with preparation is that I take one day during the week to schedule for the week's tasks. So I'll have a list of all of the courses that I have to teach. And then I have a spreadsheet that outlines each day of the week. And then I put on that spreadsheet, when am I going to prepare for my lectures? When will I actually grade the assignments that I am given? When will I address student issues? When will I work on my own professional development? And how will I check myself and reward myself? Gretchen Rubin in her Happiness Project book talks about that. She says that she's a stickers and stars person. And I realize that I too am a stickers and stars person. What that means is, remember in elementary school when you did a good job and your teacher gave you a little star for doing a good job? That's what that's all about. And what I do when I complete a task that I set out to do for that day, I reward myself, not with a sticker or a star, but I will give myself a little X that shows that I did it. I completed that. It's something to celebrate. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I even do a little dance if it's a big project. Eliminate distractions. Now, when we think of distractions, I know it seems like it's something negative, but I want to switch this to the positive. I want to say, be good to yourself. Purchase the tools that you need. So for example, when I first started teaching online, I knew that I did not want my internet lagging. So I invested in the high-speed internet. I invested in dual monitors. And the benefits of having dual monitors is the more you can see, the more it can decrease fatigue. Likewise, the big screen real estate helps with workflow. I can put the internet on one screen and students' papers on the other screen, and it makes it a lot easier for me to work. You deserve it. One of the things that I wanted that was a little pricey, so I asked for it for my birthday, was a trackpad because I don't like fidgeting with the mouse. And so I told my family, for my birthday, get me a trackpad. And they purchased a trackpad for me. So I don't know what tools you need to make your work more productive. Sorry about that. But whatever you invest in yourself. Create a contingency plan for distracting situations. As I explained earlier, my office is in my sunroom, but inevitably somebody's going to be mowing the lawn, or the worst part is when it rains. I can actually hear the raindrops on the roof. My students can't hear it, but it's a distraction for me. So my contingency plan is to move into another room if I know that it's going to rain. So I don't know what distractions you may have. Create a contingency plan for those things. Get out of your head. A lot of times when we are distracted by something that's going on, or we're distracted by a student, or we're just thinking about how we're doing what we're doing, we get into our head and we think, I'm not doing a fabulous job. You are fabulous. You are phenomenal. You were created to do what you do. So don't worry if you're not doing your best. Get out of your head, because if you're concentrating on what you're thinking about in terms of what you're not doing right, then you're not being present for what you need to do to work through the distraction. Do not accept the things that you do not like. When we went online in March, one day I had a student who arrived to class online with no shirt on. I did not like that. So immediately I explained to students, this is what I expect when you come online. So if you don't like something, change it, because if you don't change it or you don't do your best to change it, you will be distracted. And then finally, allow for mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. Allow for them to happen and work around the mistakes. Be consistent. Now, I know we are all adults and we can go to bed whenever we want, but I'm going to recommend that you go to bed. That is something that is so difficult when you want to stay up and grade that last paper or that last stack of papers. But what I find that if I don't go to bed and get the sleep that I need, I don't have the energy to give my best performance during my class sessions. So do all that you can to go to bed. Remember, I talked a little bit about in the beginning about preparing your plan for what you'll do. Stick to your plan. Aim to avoid cheating twice in a row. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he says that if he's going to cheat, meaning he's going to skip out on his plan, his goal is to never skip out twice in a row. And do it even when you don't feel like it. One of the things that James Clear talks about is that he actually elicits a 2-minute strategy where if he doesn't feel like doing something, he'll do it for 2 minutes, and then he'll increase that to make sure that it becomes a habit. I use the 15-minute strategy. Sometimes when I don't feel like doing something, I'll do it anyway and give myself 15 minutes. At the end of that 15 minutes, I may just keep going, or if I can't keep going, I'm going to assess, why am I not able to keep going? Am I too tired? Am I frustrated? If it's not something serious, then I'll try to move on. But if it is something and I just can't get past it, then I'll stop. Be present. And I know this is something that we all do, but it's important to show up and be on time. Your students will follow what you do. So if you're there on time and you start on time and you're consistent about that, they will do that. Establish a routine for office hours. So sometimes, I always have office hours, but sometimes students don't show up for my office hours. Well, I have a routine. What am I going to do if a student is not there? So establish a routine. Learn to say no and be comfortable with this. If you are always saying yes to everything, then you will be saying no to some of the most important things that you have to do for your plan that you created. So learn to say no. Create an email response procedure. James Clear talks a little bit about how we always look at emails as a task, and emails really aren't tasks. They're more or less procedures. Lauren Vanderkam's book, What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast, she talks about how checking emails early in the morning may not be very productive for you or for a person because your highest energy is in the morning time. So create an email procedure. And remember, he who has time is rich indeed. If you are present, it will create more time. If you follow these things, it'll create more time for you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the process of teaching and how to decrease burnout. Number one, use rubrics. Rubrics are our friend. Well-designed rubrics make grading easier. They make feedback more accessible and understandable. I don't like students to be confused about why they received the grade they did. So if a student asks me, Professor Wilson, why did I receive this grade on this essay or technical report? I am able to go to the rubric, sit down with them and tell them, this is why you received the grade that you received. So rubrics are very, very helpful, and they actually do help in decreasing the time that you're spending in front of the computer grading. Manage the paper load. I have 5 classes this semester, so I will have a lot of papers. One of the ways that I manage the paper load is by doing the following. Know your objectives for the assignment. If my objective for an assignment is just to understand whether or not a student knows how to create a thesis statement, I'm not going to spend a lot of time figuring out why the student has a period placed in the wrong place in the thesis statement. That leads me to refrain from dabbling in the minutia. A lot of times, especially as English teachers, there's a lot that we can look at and we can find. But if I'm exerting all of my energy, for example, if I have a student, if I'm asking students to respond to a discussion and I'm looking at 25 discussion entries and I am looking at all of the punctuation errors and typographical errors, if I'm focusing on all of that, then that's going to take up a whole lot of time, because the primary goal of this assignment discussion was to get them to discuss. I will deal with punctuation and grammar and typographical errors when I look at, let's say, a major assignment. So make sure that you avoid dabbling in the minutia. Create clear directions. It's easier to grade assignments when students understand, once again, what they are supposed to do, and they can follow those directions. And then it makes it easier for you, because if you have those directions and they don't do it, you can tell them, I told you to do X, but you didn't do that. Allow for realistic changes. Sometimes one class may need more work on a particular thing. If I am rushing to get through every point of the syllabus that I made, and my students need a little bit more work in a particular area, I need to allow for that change, because this might be something that is very important for them. And maybe there's another assignment that is way down the road that I might have to pull back, because I really need to hone in on something that was a little more important. And then finally, when managing the paper load, make it a team effort. And I'm not just talking about teamwork in your department or in your cohort, but also teamwork with your students. In my department, I have a great group of people that I work with, and on one of the courses that I'm assigned to, what we have decided was that one person will create this assignment, another person will create this assignment, and that helps to reduce the workload for each of us. Also, in terms of teamwork, I'm talking about making a teamwork effort with your students. If there's an easy assignment to grade, why not give it back to the students? And then as a class, you grade the assignments together. If it's a low stakes assignment, it helps them because they learn what your process is for grading. And then it helps you because you're not spending that additional time for grading. Manage adverse situations. One of the major parts of stress for me in teaching is when I have to deal with problems. So the first thing that I want to say in terms of managing adverse situations is whenever you're entering your class or even entering a connection with your students, whether it's an email or something like that, bring positive energy. Students feed off of your energy. If you're positive, they'll be positive. If you're negative, kind of takes things and goes down. If you get into a situation where a student is upset, remember that you are the adult in the room. You are the professional and you are good at what you do. So be the adult in the room. And when you're thinking about those situations, be fair. Create room for mistakes and issues. So for example, on my syllabus, I have a statement that says that assignments may change. I know in the beginning when I was teaching online, a lot of times inevitably someone would miss a quiz. And then I would have to go back and forth in emails with students about why they missed the quiz and how they could take the makeup. And so what I decided was that at the end of the semester, everyone gets the opportunity to retake one quiz. That decreased the stress so much. So create room for mistakes and issues. Step away from the keyboard. a lot of times if we get an email that causes us to be angry or upset, immediately we want to respond back. But if we are upset, we might not say the right thing. So step away from the keyboard. And when you calm down, come back and address the student, because you are the adult in the room and you are the professional. And then finally, seek help from colleagues, mentors, and administrators. There are times where you might read an email and think, wait a minute, did I do this? Is there something wrong? Or it might upset you. That's the time where I lean on my colleagues. I call them and ask them, am I wrong for thinking this way? Or can you help me craft this email, because right now I'm too upset to say anything. So seek help when you can, and that really does help to reduce the stress. Finally, play hard. Take time off. No one should be expected to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I actually take 24 hours during the work week off. And during that time, I don't address emails. I don't address issues. I take that time for my family and my friends. I take that time to do the things that bring me joy. What brings you joy? Make sure that you find some time to do that, and play hard when you do that. Enjoy your family and friends. They are a gift to you. Laugh a lot. And then, of course, get moving, whether it's exercise or yoga, something that will help to reduce the stress. And then finally, accept stress. One of the things that I tell my students in one of my courses is that you must understand that work is, well, work. We don't go to fun, we go to work. So a part of dealing with stress is understanding that you're going to have stress during work. Accept it. But understand that you are not alone. And that's why community is so important during this time. Recognize that this will pass. And then yield to getting the job done. One phrase that I learned that I really like is that life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And I hope that I've given you some tools that you can take away to achieve the thing that we all want, which is balance, and then also to dance in the rain. Thank you. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Professor Wilson, for that presentation. We do have some questions in the Q&A, which we'll get to in just a second. Okay. If anyone else has any questions, please enter those now and we'll get to them. First question, why is teaching online more stressful than teaching in class?
For me, teaching online is more stressful than teaching in class. Because, well, first thing is I love the interaction with my students, being able to stay back and talk to them. But the other part really is the grading. It's the paper load. When I teach face-to-face, I can receive a paper from a student, grade it, give it back. When I teach online, I have to grade in text, which is a little bit longer. I have to download the paper sometimes, grade it, then upload it again. The process is just a little bit longer, which makes my work time longer.
Thank you so much. So being prepared, as you mentioned already, can really help with reducing stress. But how do you manage stress when something doesn't go as planned? For example, if a student has a technical problem and needs accommodation in order to continue with the online lecture.
One of the things that I do is I try my best to help the student with that technical problem if I can. Sometimes I can't. A lot of times I'll receive I'll have my email box open actually during class. So if I hear something pop up and the student is saying, hey, I can't get it, I can't do this, I'll address it in an email. I try to do that on the front end. So for example, just the day before yesterday, a student said, hey, Professor Wilson, I don't have access to Blackboard yet. I know you have a class coming up. I don't know how I'm going to attend your class. And I said, no worries. We're going to be on Zoom for the first day. Here's the Zoom link. And that student was able to attend the class while he or she waited for access to Blackboard.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to share a comment. Professor Alcocer says, the best and most useful presentation I've seen in the past. Thank you, Nicole. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you so much.
Another question. How do you find a balance between enforcing the rules and giving students some latitude during the pandemic?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question. I do it on a case-by-case basis. For example, I had one student when the pandemic started. He was a good student. He always came to class, was on time, was very active and engaged in the class. And I noticed towards the middle of the semester, he kind of fell away. And then the next thing I know, I received an email for him that he had tested positive. So we worked together to get him back on track. And he eventually did get back on track. So it really is a case-by-case basis. But I think about how can I be fair? I think about what is right and ethical. And I also lean heavily on my colleagues when I don't know what to do.
That's great advice. Thank you. Kind of leaning into that last question, how do we accept late and alternative assignments without removing still more time from our own families and other responsibilities?
That's a great question. So this is what I did this summer. I decided to employ the policy that I do not accept late papers, except for under extenuating circumstances. And then I said, in a little clause, 1/3 for every day late, I will take 1/3 off of the paper. Now that's a lot, but that gives me the latitude to work with a student that I might need to work with. So I can't afford to accept late papers at the end of the semester from a lot of students because that would cause chaos for me. So I put in the clause of 1/3 per day just to help out because of the pandemic. It kind of helps me and then it helps them. And once again, it really is on a case-by-case basis for me.
Awesome, thank you. How do you motivate students who do not come to class regularly?
Well, I like the stickers and stars concept. So one of the things that I did for my freshman class is I had a leaderboard and I put them in groups. And so on the leaderboard, you had to come to class to see where you were ranking on the leaderboard, which led toward the end of the semester. I said, that's going to create these extra points that you might use because sometimes when I'm thinking about grades and you have 89.79, I'm wondering if I should push it up to a 90. So that helped a lot. I try to find ways to motivate them by using incentives to motivate them.
Thank you for sharing. And a similar question from Professor Morrison. When you are Zooming, how often are you engaging students?
Oh, all the time. The goal of Zoom is to actually have a class. So of course we lecture during Zoom, but I'm also able to, we break out in groups. We also do things like we actually, they engage in the chat I talk to them, I ask them questions. So we're pretty active. We use things like quizzes like Quiz Is or Kahoot. Those things help to engage them as well.
That sounds really great. How do you grade the discussion posts easily online?
I grade for three things. I grade for content. Did they answer the questions that I'm asking them to answer? I also grade them based on their responses to other students because it is a discussion. So I expect for them to respond back to other students. And then I do look at grammar holistically, and I'm not grading for every little period or misplaced comma, but I am looking to make sure that they're professional because I teach a technical writing class. So I expect for them to be professional in their comments.
Thank you so much. Like our time with you today, which is considered to be teacher development, how many hours a week do you think we should devote to professional development?
I think that's up to you. It depends on what you want to do. In Laura Vanderkam's book, What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast, she said that the most successful professors are those she found who took 15 minutes a day to do some kind of writing. So I think that really depends on what it is that you want to do. I think that determines how long you'll need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know different institutions require different amounts of professional development time for certain reasons. So definitely
Right.
should be up to the individual. I like this question a lot from Professor Husky. Can you provide some suggestions for saying no to the administration without seeming unhelpful?
That one that's a tough one. I think you have to think a little bit about who you're saying no to. I'm a team player, so the only time I'm going to say no would mean that when it's taking away from productivity. But I like what one colleague, we were in a meeting and someone asked him to do something. Administrator asked him, "Can you do X?" And he said, "No, because if I'm already doing this, this, and this. If you ask me to do X, then it's going to take away from this, this, and this." And so I think that that's something that you have to think about and decide how you would approach that.
Thank you so much for that answer. Let's see. Oh, this one I really liked. If you had to recommend one book to help learn stress reduction and/or happiness techniques, what would it be?
Oh boy. I really liked Atomic Habits by James Clear. He had a lot of good points and good things that we as instructors or individuals can do to create a work-life balance. So I guess that would be the book that I would pick this time.
Awesome, thank you. What resource do you use for creating rubrics?
I've been teaching for over 23 years. And so I think I took a course in it way back when, and then I've just kind of been building from that. But there's a lot on the internet that you can look at. We gather together as a team and we kind of work through our rubrics and what we are doing and what we're looking for. So I'm sorry, unfortunately, I've just been teaching so long that it's kind of something that I've been doing for a very, very long time. And I've been working with other instructors and we've just built our rubrics based on the things that we've learned over the years. So I would say the internet is just the best place to go to. And you're welcome to email me if you want to see a rubric or talk about a rubric with me.
Thank you for offering your help. We do have a lot of attendees right now, so if anyone has any resources that they really like, feel free to pop those into the Q&A and you can look there
Yes.
as well. Oh, speaking of suggestions, here's a suggestion for saying no to administration. This is from Professor Horn. A good suggestion for saying no to administration in this time of reductions in forces without saying no is saying, I can fit that into my schedule in December or in the spring. If they want it right now, it shows you are willing but not able to do it right now, especially if you usually volunteer or are able to do things. It also shows that you have healthy boundaries.
Yeah, I like that.
I
Thank
do
you.
too. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing, Professor Horn. Are rubrics enough in a first-year composition class? Giving line-by-line marginal feedback for over 150 students is very taxing.
Yes, and it doesn't work. All the studies are showing that when you're giving that line by line feedback for every student, they're not reading all of that. So one of the things that I employ in my English composition class is I try to find 3 things that are egregious. And then we work on those 3 things. Not only do we, but we also, I have something called charting your errors. So throughout the semester, they kind of look at those errors that I'm picking out, and then we work through those. And then of course we have a revision process where I'm able to sit down and talk to them about those errors. But yeah, if you're going line by line, grading every single thing on that essay, I know you want to, but it's overwhelming for them. And so they're probably not going to get everything that they need to get.
Thank you. Speaking of rubrics, rubrics do save time, but students argue about the feedback in them. How do you address this kindly and firmly?
We talk about it. So for my revision process, I have my students come to my office or online they have to bring 3 things. They have to bring their rubric, they have to bring their graded assignment, and then they actually have to go through their revision using track changes, so that when we sit down, we talk about those problems and we address the things that are in the rubric. So the student says, you know, hey, Professor Wilson, you said that I didn't have a purpose statement on my memo, but I do have a purpose statement. And so we'll start talking about, well, really, where is this purpose statement? You are the professional. Sometimes I'll acquiesce if they have a strong enough argument.
That's great advice. Thank you. In a similar vein, you mentioned working as a team with students on creating assignments. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, I apologize. Not on creating assignments, but on grading assignments. So if I create an assignment, they do it. It's a low stakes assignment, not something as big as an essay. Then I give it all back to them, and then we go over it and grade it together. I will say that I am trying something this semester on creating assignments with students, allowing them to help create, but since I haven't done it yet, I don't want to testify that this is a good thing to do or a bad thing to do.
Thank you. You may have answered this already. Do you teach via web conferencing?
Are you referring to Zoom, or I teach both. I use both Zoom and Blackboard Collaborate when I teach online. Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, rather.
Awesome. We are almost out of time, so we'll take just a couple more questions. If anyone has any, put those in the Q&A now, and we'll do our best to get to them. Speaking of Blackboard Collaborate, from Professor Clifton, our Blackboard Collaborate only allows 6 students on camera at a time. How do you work with such limitations when you want the whole class to feel as a community while participating?
That's a hard question. If your university doesn't allow you to use something like Zoom, then that's a tough one. I use both Blackboard Collaborate and Zoom because they do different things. So in Zoom, I can see all of my students. And Blackboard, Collaborate, Ultra, I can actually see the list of my students, and I can see their images. I don't remember if I see all of them right now, though, in Collaborate Ultra, but I know that I see the list of them and how active they are. I apologize, I don't have a good answer for that one.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. No worries. A comment. I created a common composition errors spreadsheet. So if there's a comma splice, I just comment splice on the paper and then they have to go see what it is and how to fix it. That's a great idea.
That's a great idea, yes.
Yeah, another suggestion about saying no. Say you'll think about it, need to check your schedule, then ask yourself, how much time will this take? Who is it for? What impact will it have? Then if you have to say no, the person will know that you took the time to think about it.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much. You've gotten a lot of thank yous that I kind of skimmed over as we were going, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do you have any last words that you'd like to share with the audience as we wrap up?
I just want to say, remember self-care, and thank you for coming, and I hope that this was helpful, and have a great semester.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Wilson, for your presentation today. And thank you, audience, for attending, for all of those great questions and suggestions we saw. If you have any other questions, please direct them to us at marketing@hawkslearning.com. We will be emailing you a link to view this webinar on demand. Thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.